Hey guys, it's Colt here with a bit of a different style of video today. There have been a ton of news in the ARPG world over the last week, and I wanted to put something together for anyone who might be undecided on which of these games to play, or really just new to the genre and looking to understand what options might be out there for you. I'll talk to you through some of the good, the bad, the ugly, and even a verdict for a few of the contenders for the top spot, with a recommendation on which might be the best for you, depending on your particular situation. I'll also show some gameplay of each and discuss some helpful resources if you want to get started. Let's dive right in. First up, we have a household name that we all know and maybe love, maybe hate at this point, but that is the Diablo franchise. I'll break this into D4 and D3 with a bit of a tribute to D2 towards the end of the video, as these are all very different games, but still popular in their own right. Starting with the newer Diablo 4, this is one that had tremendous hype around launch, given the heft of the franchise name and the cult-like fan base dating all the way back to the 90s. With an extremely popular launch last year, it quickly hit some bumps in the road around things like wonky gear itemization, lack of broadly accepted quality of life aspects that even its predecessor D3 had gotten right. I'm thinking search function on the stash tabs, for example, and really no in-game when it launched. It also had a dev team that was struggling to understand and address the community's concerns, and that was really creating a bit of a stir amongst the player base. We saw a struggle bus season 1 into a relatively popular and improved season 2, back into a pain train for season 3 that's left the community wondering when Blizzard will finally take our concerns seriously. But fortunately, just this week, Blizzard stepped up in a big way and really pulled D4 out of beta by highlighting some major changes coming in Season 4 that everyone's been asking for. The game already supported the most powerful and efficient underlying combat engine in the genre, with stunning visuals and cinematics, a story-rich campaign that was great for casual players, and this acknowledgement and roadmap to discuss some of the more requested features around itemization, gear progression, and in-game systems has really helped to reinstill confidence in the player base that the future for D4 is looking bright. Certainly more expensive than the other options on this list, at a minimum of $70 with options over $100 and seasonal battle passes, but Blizzard has demonstrated they have the horsepower and capability to turn a scuffed launch into an amazing game with plenty of longevity, so it's definitely worth considering for Season 4. That's a good segue into Diablo 3. Launching all the way back in 2012, it had some similar woes with fiascos like the real money auction house, heinous early itemization, and a tone-deaf dev team, but it's really pivoted into what many believe to be a great game with the Reaper of Souls expansion and some major updates starting in the 2014 to 2015 timeframe. I would argue this is one of the easiest ARPGs to get into, with a ton of quality of life improvements and a very fast ramp up to end game, with a friendly and dedicated fan base that can honestly power level you and gear you within just a couple hours of purchasing the game. It remains a great option for casual players that aren't looking for an insane level of depth and complexity like some of the other titles I'll discuss. And it also continues to receive frequent updates, and it manages to keep me occupied for about a week or so at the start of every season. Even though we're all the way on to season 30 now, I will usually log on and grind through the season journey, try out a new build that I haven't tested, and get a little bit of a taste for the end game. This one's going to run you about $40. It's a one-time purchase, and that'll unlock the full game. And it's going to offer you anywhere from 10 to 20 hours if you just want to casually play through the campaign, all the way up to several hundred hours per season if you want to take a push through the full seasonal experience and really get into the end game. Next up is a newcomer to the big stage in Last Epoch. 11th Hour Gaming Studio has really made a name for itself in the last few months with the drop of patch 1.0, and Last Epoch has emerged as a major player in the ARPG space. This game features 15 unique masteries with an insane number of individual builds given the depth and interconnectivity of the skill trees, passives, and gear options. It also features a simple yet powerful crafting system that is really the cornerstone of character progression. Combat's fun throughout, and it starts to get fun really early, making the transition from leveling to in-game very enjoyable. Most experts on the game will agree that the in-game is where Last Epoch has the most room for growth, as it can get bland rather quickly, and it doesn't offer much in terms of variety of in-game activities. It's also received some criticism for its lack of evolution over the past 3 years, really from long-term gamers that are familiar with the title. they've stated it just hasn't changed that much compared to some other things like Diablo, Path of Exile, etc. Despite some of these issues, I've had a blast playing Last Epoch and can really feel the dedication from the dev team to continue to improve and stay in touch with the community. At a $35 price point and no plans to charge more in the future, to me this one's a no-brainer for fans of the genre. It's going to give you hundreds of hours of gameplay before you hit that in-game wall and really start to itch for a change of pace. Finally, let's talk about Path of Exile. Admittedly, this is a game on the list I've played the least, but I recognize the reason I've played it the least has nothing to do with the quality of the game, and more the barrier to entry for new players. It offers the most depth and highest reward to effort ratio of any game on this list, but can feel extremely daunting to get into as a newbie or someone with limited time to game. For your first playthrough, it will almost certainly require the use of external guides or the tutelage of an experienced player, but this investment has proven to be well worth it. With a mesmerizing character progression system, complex and diverse in-game, as well as a dedicated and engaged community, Path of Exile remains one of the best games in the genre, even if it takes some work to get into. Similar to Last Epoch and D3, Path of Exile will only cost you about $40 to purchase what I would say is the bare minimum of things you'll want to buy to make yourself not miserable while you're playing the game. It is technically free to play, and some will argue you don't really have to buy anything, but the general consensus is things like stash tabs and map tabs are just going to make your life a whole lot better, and most players are going to spend about $40 if they want to really put any time into Path of Exile. Just going to make your experience a lot better. Before we wrap up, I'll add a few honorable and maybe not so honorable mentions to the list. First up is Grim Dawn. Launching in 2016, with a few expansions since, it does offer a really enjoyable experience, although it sits on a much older engine that can feel outdated and clunky at times. It has a relatively complex stat system and character progression, but it's not going to hold your attention the same way a D4, Path of Exile, or even Last Epoch will. If you can find this on sale on Steam, I think it's still a great game. It's worth spending a weekend or two on from time to time, and there are plans for Grim Dawn 2 in the upcoming year or so. Next up is Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is certainly still an option for fans of the genre, but it suffers from some of the same issues as Grim Dawn. It feels outdated, and it's honestly probably best served to scratch the nostalgia itch from time to time. I would recommend it for long-term fans, as it is truly a classic and a staple in the ARPG space, but it does struggle to compete with some of the newer titles that are getting more frequent updates. The remake, Diablo 2 Resurrected, comes at about a $40 price tag. To me, that's hard to justify given the other options that are available right now, but I could still see some folks having a lot of fun with Diablo 2, especially if you haven't gotten the chance to try it yet. The last game I'll mention is Wolcen. Wolcen had a bumpy release in 2020, and unfortunately, it's never really recovered. The launch was extremely buggy, and it just hasn't really been fixed in an acceptable way. It was fun, and it showed a lot of potential, and it still does get brought up from time to time, but I would say Wolcen is a game that I couldn't honestly recommend at this point, unless you've just played all the other ones and you're looking for something new to try. To finish this up, let's summarize everything we've talked about, and I'll provide a formal recommendation for what might be best for you depending on your situation. First and foremost, I'll say Diablo 4 gets the superlative for the best story and is a great option for casual gamers that don't have a ton of time to play, or folks that are playing on console. It's not going to be your cheapest option, so I would recommend waiting until it's on Game Pass. That's going to happen in about a week or so, and I would certainly recommend waiting for Season 4 as it should be much improved. If you are looking for a cheaper but still casual friendly option that you can fire up and jump right into, Diablo 3 can be a great choice. It works on older machines, it's easy to get into, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It does support controller, but my god is it painful to get set up, so I would recommend looking at a Switch version or just playing Diablo 4 if console is a requirement. Next up, Last Epoch is a great option for those that are somewhere in between wanting to learn a new language and just looking for a coloring book. It offers hints of complexity and depth found in Path of Exile with a simpler and more approachable network of systems. It is a ton of fun and it's at a great price point. And while it may not receive the frequency or volume of updates that a title like Diablo will, it's honestly already in such a great place to provide hundreds of hours of enjoyment for those that are looking for something with a little more depth. Finally, Path of Exile. This one is a must-have for serious gamers that want to pump a ton of time into understanding and uncovering all a game has to offer. It will reward you for the time in a way the other titles just can't keep up with, and it has a ton of community-driven content to help you along the way. You're going to feel like you just graduated a PhD program once you've fully experienced PoE, but you'll have had a ton of fun along the way. With a new season launching this Friday, I would 100% recommend giving it a try if you're looking for a challenge and you have some time to play. That's it for this one, guys. I'll link some beginner resources from other content creators down below. And as always, let me know if you have any questions or think some other games might deserve to be on this list in the comments.